Inside the strategy rooms of most major organizations, the future of work has devolved into a collection of conflicting, disorganized initiatives. Companies frequently rely on isolated tactics to drive culture. They implement a hybrid scheduling policy, integrate a single new AI tool, or install amenities like beanbag chairs, hoping these individual parts create a cohesive whole. These isolated policies lack the integration required for a sustainable strategy. This approach represents a scattershot reaction to market pressure. The results are measurable. Organizations face massive initiative fatigue among middle management and productivity plateaus that persist despite constant internal changes. Long-term viability depends on treating the future of work as an architectural discipline. Navigating this shift requires corporate leadership to adopt the systems architect mindset. A systems architect executes purposeful, integrated design across multiple time horizons, looking past immediate office trends to focus on structural health. This mindset involves analyzing the organization as a collection of subsystems, where every individual component influences the performance and stability of the whole. Leaders must assume the role of structural architects to ensure their organizations remain competitive in the coming decade. Effective architectural design begins with a foundational blueprint. This diagram establishes the core structural framework of the future of work, organized around 3 central orbiting nodes. Workplace defines the spatial dimension, the physical, digital, and virtual locations where work occurs. Workforce represents the structural dimension, the employee propositions, management hierarchies, and specific skills required to execute the business strategy. Worktask is the operational dimension. It encompasses the mindsets, methods, and tools that teams use to actually deliver output. These 3 nodes exist in a state of rigid interdependency. Shifting one node creates immediate mechanical pressure on the others. For example, when an organization shifts to a remote model, the workplace node pulls away from the center, placing intense strain on the connecting systems. To maintain the system, the operational methods must adapt. The Worktask node must move to accommodate asynchronous workflows and new digital collaboration tools. Workforce management and skill requirements must simultaneously evolve to bring the entire 3-node system back into equilibrium. Ignoring these connections results in systemic friction that erodes productivity. Forcing an isolated change onto a rigid system creates structural failure. When you change the location without redesigning how people work, the connections snap. We identify this specific failure as the messy hybrid phase. Attempting to optimize where people sit without re-engineering the tasks they perform and the skills they possess mathematically guarantees a failing organization. Beyond spatial design, a systems architect must account for time. Every organizational system follows a definitive life cycle. The S-curve provides the mathematical model for this evolution, plotting the value a system generates over its lifespan. The early phase, or birth, is defined by slow growth. The organization must invest time and effort into building the knowledge base required to make the new system function. In the middle phase, that knowledge triggers rapid adoption. The organization sees its highest performance returns during this steep climb. Eventually, the curve plateaus. This late phase marks the point where the system has reached its absolute maximum potential. Once a system hits this plateau, it enters a state of diminishing returns. At this stage, even massive capital investment yields only fractional improvements in value. A common example is an organization funding expensive office renovations to improve morale, while leaving a fundamentally outdated management hierarchy in place. These late-phase optimizations often give leaders a false sense of innovation. The reality is that the underlying system is physically incapable of holding more value. High-level leadership failure often stems from exhausting resources while trying to outmanage the mathematical plateau of a dying system. We can apply this S-curve logic to the history of organizational design by using meaning as our primary measure of value. This graph maps the sequential evolution of work paradigms, showing how each model eventually reaches its limit and gives way to the next. The first curve, work as a job, provided value through basic employment. Its eventual plateau forced the initial development of human resources to find new ways to engage workers. This led to the work as a career curve, which focused on structured progression. Once this model reached its maximum capacity, organizations had to evolve again. Most modern companies currently occupy the third curve, work as an experience, prioritizing well-being, empowerment, and flexible environments. The emerging horizon is work as transformation, where the value is defined by the profound personal and societal impact of the work itself. The space between these curves is critical. Moving from a dying system to a new sequence demands a leap rather than a gradual transition. Optimizing the peak of an old curve feels safe, while jumping to the bottom of a new curve involves significant risk. A systems architect deliberately architects this jump, building the foundation of a transformational model before the current one becomes obsolete. Survival requires the courage to abandon a comfortable, plateaued peak to build the baseline of the future. Integrating spatial architecture with the timeline of the S-curve provides a holistic view of the organization. This synthesis creates the FWW master construct. The top mindset tier establishes guiding principles. Middle meta waves inform how you configure the 16 equalizers making up your mix. The foundational move tier translates design into concrete initiatives. Leaders use this construct daily for strategic alignment. Organizations must carefully audit their current state against this multi-layered blueprint to quickly identify and fix structural weaknesses. Organizations that successfully excite, entice, and engage talent are products of uncompromising, intentional architectural design.